Okay, to lay out pave on this ring, we first separate one of the surfaces on which to put the pave. It's just easier to control if you have that surface separate. It can be a surface or a poly surface. So we go to the surface tool, extract surface, and we just click on that surface on which to place the pave. No, not that one. Control click deselects it. That's better. Enter. We can put this on a separate layer color so we can see it a little better. Now start up the advanced pave tool. That's right here. And I'll just drag it up out of the way so you can see it. Click on the surface option and select the surface on which to place the pave. Now all the rest of the little tools will turn on. Okay, your start options, you can select base direction or seed gems or curve or start edges. Those are your options for this tool. We'll start with the base direction so we can compare it with the edges. You can place the base anywhere and then angle it to the direction you'd like the gems to point. Okay, notice that turns off the edge option that we had selected before. Any of these options allow you to use another curve on the surface at which to stop the pave, and a tractor curve on the surface that allows it to follow a certain curvature. And auto attractor option comes up when the curve option is input. Just to let you know, the seed gem option here lets you start with a line of gems already on the surface, and that forms the basis for the pave. We've done that in a different tutorial. Curve is much the same, only you don't have to input gems, just a curve. So with that curve option, and start edges is understandable, kind of self-evident. Lock start will lock you to whatever option you've got here. Otherwise, the start gems are up for grabs. They can be moved around by the tool to fit things in the best based on the options you've selected. Okay, so with your edge curves, the options are, edge curve, attractor curve, we talked about those, and auto attractor pops up when you use the curve option. It can also attract the rest of the gems to the shape of that curve. Okay, we're going to use the layout hex to start with, and then we'll go back to square and compare the differences. We're using 1 as a base size, 0.9 as a minimum, and 1.2 as a max, so you'll have to type these in yourself. Raising the taper causes us to put in more sizes in between these, and also takes a little longer. The other options also take a little bit longer and just cause it to think about the pave and to create it differently. So you select the option that you want to try, create the pave, and if you don't like that, try some different options and see if you get a different result. The surface is not going to vary too much. Our major changes are going to be the start edges and the square layout. But we'll start with the default and then we can compare. Excuse me. Okay. We'll bump these down. I like to start with no options on first, and that way I can see what the pave is going to do before it lays out. So we'll hit run and see what we get. Okay. When you start to crank these, you can see a different result. That way you'll know what change made that result. Okay, in this case, they're not going to really change that much. Okay, perturb is moving toward randomize, equalize is moving toward more of the same, okay, equal. Perturb is moving toward random. Same thing in these settings. You have a second chance for it to calculate the changes, so you're giving it more chances to change. And in a bigger model, you'll see more differences, but because this is so small, we're not going to really get that main difference here. What's really going to cause a difference for us is to use start edges. So it's going to start by chasing the edges of the surface. We can also choose lock start, and that way those edge gems will not be able to be moved. And the final option we're going to use is change from hex to square, and that's going to make quite a difference in this layout. Okay, the square layout makes for a really interesting pattern. You can see how the base direction turned off. Okay, they're mutually exclusive. Got a little guy in there. Let's try turning off lock start and turn up perturb and see if it'll give it another chance. Makes it kind of interesting. As you know, we can fix these with springs. So just go ahead down to the bottom when you like it and hit done. We can grab some gems, ungroup them first. And don't forget the good old tools that we already have from the other versions to adapt these with. So let's go to gems, turn on springs, and place the surface. The one surface we didn't want to select, place the surface into the builder, and the gems that you want to adjust. And get some gems nearby them so that they'll also be affected by the springs. Okay, of course you click and drag once we get our little guy back. Click and drag a gem. We have a little unexpected friend in the hourglass here, but that's okay. So you just click and drag on it to move it. It'll change from yellow to orange once it's placed. Okay, once you're ready, click Set Gems, and they'll be placed, and you can run this again with some other gems out there on the surface. Remember, they're only going to change if you select them, so we probably could have selected a few more to put in there to change here. Once they're orange, you can move them again, but they won't be affected by other gems once they're orange. That'll do for now. Click on Set Gems to place them. Okay, now you want to apply prongs to this, so we select all the gems and go up to our prong adder, prong placer, which lives in the setting menu. It's got all kinds of names. And put the gems into the builder. I'm feeling like it might want to be job bagged. Let's put all this in a job bag. Ooh, like I said, let's put all this in a job bag first so I don't wreak havoc, as usual. Place them into prong adder and it'll go ahead and give you some prongs. Now, usually this defaults to your gem flow because you've just done a gem line. We just did pave because I practiced before I made this video. So your default setting is going to be gem north. Now what gem north does is it looks for the next gem in a line, and you can't really tell what gem it's looking for. Well, you kind of can, but it might not be doing the same thing over the whole course of the pave, which is why it doesn't look really good. So go ahead and choose gem north, and then it'll go in the direction that the gems are automatically following for the pave layout. And the square direction, as you can see, is giving us some pretty good results here. The square direction of the pave. So you can move through the options and see if there's any of these you like better. I usually like the one that it gives me to start with. Not sure why. But anyhow, you can get different looks from the pave by choosing different options here. Gem North is controlled by the Gem Control Builder, and we're just gonna use the defaults here. Okay, we'll show you Gem Control in a different tutorial. Once you like the results, press Enter, and they'll be turned into real prongs. Of course, if you need to edit them, you can just select them and do select them and do F6, and you'll get everything back with the handles and the builder. Okay, you can now select those gems with their prongs and rotate them with copy turned on around F4, holding down Shift to place them. Let's place this in a job bag and we'll show you how to do the final part of this design next.